All right, a quick session recap here, taking a look at ES, and frankly, not a ton to add from what we've already discussed either during yesterday's end of day session recap or during this morning's pre-market prep live stream. Coming into the session today, we're looking at two primary levels of interest. We wanted to see how price traded either versus this 49.75 upside level of interest. You can see the resistance there from yesterday's session, or the downside 49.60 level of interest. Now we do have a pretty tight range on today's session, looking like about 23 points, which is going to be about half of a normal ATR. It's about half of the normal range that we do see in ES. So some very, very tight action today. A couple of decent setups depending on how you like to trade and depending on where you like to get involved. We did see some decent activity versus that 49.60 level of interest. You can see that zone holding as support pretty much for the duration of the day after that initial 49.75 area was rejected. As far as what we're going to be looking at for tomorrow, it's going to be a very, very similar approach to what we did today. Going to be watching how price trades versus today's tight range. That's going to be 49.80 by pretty much 49.55. Now, if we take a look at the daily, we currently have two consecutive inside bars on the daily chart. Now, anytime you have a big extension type of move within price, it's not unusual to see that contraction, volatility contracts and expands. So not all that unusual to see this tighter action, especially with no catalysts, no major catalysts upcoming. Next major catalyst is going to be CPI next week. So there is a decent possibility that we continue to trade in a range bound fashion for the rest of the week. That is a scenario that you want to kind of keep in mind into Monday's CPI. Now, again, for tomorrow, we want to see how price trades versus today's range, and then most likely just trade with the direction of that break. Break above 49.75, that shows acceptance, meaning prices continue to hold above that level, and it's just not a liquidity sweep above that level. So a break and hold at 49.75, again, we want to be targeting that 5K level. If 49.60 fails, we do have some near-term support down here into the 49.35. This continues to be a pretty tight range, even with these outer levels, 5K down into 49.35. We're looking for a break outside of, again, what is essentially right through here, right? See the near-term volume point of control, so definitely some type of accumulation or distribution happening here near this 49.67 level. How price resolves from this range will give us a big clue about the next few days. So that's what I'm looking at on ES. Now NQ, we talked about the major daily time frame resistance up here into the 17,800 zone. Price rejecting that area again and then just trading down into that near-term range low. So NQ, you can go ahead and treat it like a near-term range as well. Looking at 17,600 by essentially 17,800, a 200-point range. That's a 1 ATR move in NQ. A little bit of a better setup developing here in NQ at the near-term range now, so you can keep some eyeballs on this if you do like to trade the NASDAQ. I'm going to continue to focus on ES for the time being. Again, I do think the setup is a bit easier in that ES simply because if we take a look at the daily chart, ES is up and through that daily time frame resistance, and NQ is still hovering right through here. So I'd rather be focused on the one that has already showed the relative strength. That is just my personal preference. As far as individual names, we did have Baba hitting the scans. This is going to be a post-earnings watch. Baba does report tomorrow morning, and then we have DocuSign. Nice reversal that has developed in DocuSign here. A big weekly base, still ongoing, now pulling back into the 200 MA. You want to, if you like to swing trade, you may want to keep an eye on this one as well. Looking for the second day trade in DocuSign tomorrow. And then PLTR, this one was a killer move that we had on watch today. Just looking for that second day continuation play in PLTR for tomorrow. So ES We have 49.55 by 49.80. Essentially, that is today's range. Looking for a break of today's range. You can see the bid into the close here, again, giving us more clues about what to expect for tomorrow's session, about what to expect for how this near-term range volume point of control is going to resolve. And then we have the NQ, which is going to be 17,800 by 17,600. None of these levels are updated, so just ignore that. Haven't been trading NQ for the past week or so. So that's about it for the index as well as individual names. That is the session recap. Hope everyone had a great trading day despite the chop. At the very least, if you stayed cash or played defense, you did well. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message in the Traders Think Tank. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow morning for the pre-market prep live stream. Have a great evening.